I'm Jamie Adrian, and joining me today is Elaine May. It is November 15th, 2011. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your memories. We're going to start with some background information. Can you tell us where and when you were born?
I was born in Baltimore in 1945, July 22nd. I was born there, but my father wanted us to grow up in the country, so we moved to Carroll County. So I live in Town.
Great. And so do you remember what age you were when you moved to Town?
I was 1 year old.
And you've lived
And
here?
I lived in Town. It's always been considered home. Even though after high school I worked for a temporary time in Town, but my goal was I wanted to be in the military. So I joined the Marine Corps. It happened to be that service. And then I left and was gone, but Town was kind of always considered home. That's where your roots are.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me who your parents were?
James and Mary May.
And did they work outside of the home, or?
My mother was a housekeeper, and my father worked in Baltimore. He continued working in Baltimore at Bethlehem Steel Company as a blacksmith. Other than that, he stayed there and became a carpenter after that and moved out, to come out closer in the country.
What was it like growing up in Carroll County and in Town in particular?
I didn't know anything else, so it was a good life. Grew up in the country and had a lot of things to do, and had a pond, go swimming, had animals. Most of my friends that lived in town actually would come out to see me. So it was a good life, no problems.
What was your neighborhood like? Did you live in a small neighborhood? Did you live out in the country?
Actually lived in the country on a big farm. We had about 90 acres out there.
I bet you had lots of jobs to do.
Had lots of job to do, and we always had a garden, so I always seemed to be working in the garden, picking weeds.
And how has that area changed?
Town has changed a lot. Not exactly the same. When I retired in 1994, I came up here in 96 because I was living in Falls Church, Virginia. And because I wanted to come home. I wanted to live in the house since my parents were gone. I wanted to live in the house I grew up in. I didn't want to see anybody else live in it. So and it's been a lot of work and maintenance because it's an old Victorian 1890s house.
Oh, neat. You've talked about your military service. What branch did you serve in?
In the United States Marine Corps. And I went to boot camp in September of 65 and graduated in December of 65.
How long did you serve?
Well, I got an assignment to Quantico, Virginia, and I was there for about 2 years. And I ended up getting out of the service only because I knew a colonel that was going to headquarters Marine Corps in Arlington, and he says pursue the civil service route, and I did do that. And I can always remember that was something my father wanted me to do, was work for the government, because it's kind of like a security job. You got benefits and all that, so I did that. And then it wasn't until a few years later, someone I went to boot camp with, she says, why don't you join the Marine Corps Reserve? I did do that in 1974 and stayed with that.
And how long were you in the reserve?
That was many years. I ended up getting 30 years out of it. So I retired after I came back from Iraq in 2003. I had over 30 years. So that's about the max that we can do.
When you were in the Marines and the Marine Corps reserves, what were your responsibilities?
Well, I probably did more in the reserves than if I'd have been on active duty somewhere. I had a lot of opportunities to travel everywhere in Europe, and did a lot of things. And up to a gunnery sergeant, E7, I was admin, taking care of record books and had a staff. I chose to be a leader of Marines, so I went the first sergeant route. And then from first sergeant to sergeant major, and that's their responsibilities as a first sergeant, sergeant major. You're the leader of the Marines, senior Marine, enlisted, and you're also the first hand man, or right hand to the commanding officer, taking care of issues, good and bad.
What was it like being a female in the service?
We've come a long way as women. I had some issues I had to deal with that many times as a sergeant major, or even a first sergeant. I said, probably if there was a man in these shoes, they wouldn't be dealing with these issues, but I did. But so it was a lot of endurance, being strong, and taking care of the issue.
You had mentioned Iraq to me earlier. Is that the only war that you've actively been involved with, or have you been involved with more conflicts such as that?
Mostly Iraq. I've been on a lot of exercises over in Denmark, Baltap headquarters, things of that nature, but exercises. Vietnam, more women in the Marine Corps did not go to Vietnam. That was mostly medical corps and nurses. So I was at Quantico, though. It was many hours of working and taking care of a lot of issues because of the Vietnam War. But Iraq, we were there. No such thing as a front line everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And how did that change you, being so firsthand involved with something such as Iraq?
It didn't actually change me per se, because you have to keep your focus on why you're there and what you were doing and taking care of your Marines, making sure everybody gets back alive, and that I was able to do that. But we had to take care of a lot of things, and I was with a civil affairs unit, and the civil affairs unit is to go over there and reassess and see what we need to do to take care of the people, and it was a lot. So we was always doing things. We had a lot of missions. Like I said, my job was to take care of Marines, go visit them wherever they're at, and take care of any of the issues that need to be taken care of. Big responsibility, but I enjoyed it.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it was very important to you. What lessons did you learn from your time in the military?
I guess I would say, appreciating life. You have a high esteem on yourself, who you are. Being in the military kind of instills a lot of good characters built into you. I enjoyed taking care of people, and I enjoyed helping young people and guiding them in any issues that they might have. So didn't change me. I learned a lot. It was an education, and I felt like that I felt like important in the role I was in.
Good. How does the military continue to be a part of your life now that you're retired?
Well, it's a big part of my life. I still keep myself in shape. I feel that I still am there to help people. I went back over to Iraq as a contractor with the Army, taking care of as a site manager for the linguist program, hiring interpreters. I feel like I learned and continuing to do things that I learned from the military, which was taking care of people.
And how have you been involved in the military or the veterans here in Carroll County since you've retired?
I belong to a number of organizations. I belong to a Women Marine Association. I belong to American Legion. I belong to the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign War. So I put on a lot of ceremonies because that's what I did as a sergeant major, and taking care of a lot of issues with veterans. And people come to me and ask me, what I can do, and I usually help.
When you left the military and the reserves, what sort of career path did you take?
When I left the military, I did many things. When I worked for the government, I was working for the military, Marine Corps. And when I continued doing some other jobs after that, because I was only 48 when I retired. But I did other things because I'm a work person. When I retired from the military, like I said, I went back over to Iraq with the Army as an Army contractor to work with the linguist program, hiring interpreters. So, keep busy.
Yeah, I bet. What other influences have you had in your life besides the military? What other important facts or people have really inspired you?
Inspired me. Well, I have a daughter that definitely inspires me because she picked up a lot of my work ethic. So she's a go-getter, and she does a lot of things for the Toys for Tots program. She is the Anne Arundel County head of the program representative, and she does putting things together and fundraisers. And so I think she's made an impact on my life. How I raised her to be like me, because she does all the things that care about people.
That's wonderful. It's very important. Is there anything else you want to share with us about your time growing up in Carroll County, or your memories of Carroll County, or your military service and being a veteran to this great country?
Carroll County was my life. You know, my family was there, and I grew up there, and I have a lot of friends that I grew up with there. My military life, something you'll never forget, and it'll stay with me forever. And I guess the people that I've met along the way, because I've met many people and have many longtime friends. Because in the military, you have that bond which you will stay with for the rest of your life. So one thing I do have is plenty of friends. So,
are you able to see a lot of those people that you
keep in touch?
Served with?
We keep in touch. Yeah, and I do go see them. I can go anywhere, and there they are. So yeah, that's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. I bet it is.
Mm-hmm.
That bond.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us today. If there's anything else that you want to share, I'm happy to keep it for our future generations to see.
Well, I appreciate that, and I thank you for interviewing me, and I am proud to be an American and being a veteran.
Thank you.